To understand the factors that are responsible for people's differential outcomes, you have to first of all go back to the sense of self. How people understand themselves, how people understand the factors that come together to create their sense of self. If you understand the factors that come to create the sense of self, it's within the articulation of your sense of self that you discover where you derive your source of meaning. When you discover where you derive your source of meaning is like an energy that empowers the self to keep manifesting itself. The self is like any other life form. It's an energetic force that wants to keep regenerating itself. And it doesn't even want to end with you when you die. It wants to live on. So where you derive your source of meaning now becomes the rallying point that the self uses to empower itself and then to continue to perpetuate itself. For someone whose source of meaning is an empowering understanding that he is a God, is an empowering understanding that is an infinite learner, is an empowering understanding that the universe and him are one. That understanding, that is where he derived that source of meaning. That source of meaning is so powerful. It affects every other, even the thoughts that he generates, even the way he speaks, in the way he talks, the way he articulates his mind. And so, even when negative thoughts or when challenges hit the person, he doesn't see them as challenges. He sees them as an empowering force to allow him to thrive. And so, that source of meaning becomes the power that empowers him to develop some kind of an anti-fragile mindset to go through life. So the person becomes tougher and more resilient and resolute and more successful even as he goes through challenges. Two people can face the same experiences, but what they're looking for, what they are expecting, which is influenced by where they derive their source of meaning, will determine the kind of disposition they will have going into that path. And so the experience will shape them and will give them different interpretation of what has happened, which results to different memory. So you want to be mindful of where you derive your source of meaning. People seek knowledge for two reasons. One is the fear of ignorance, the other is the love of wisdom. And this also goes back to the question of the source of meaning. Where do you derive your meaning? If you seek knowledge because you are afraid of not being poor, of not being appreciated, of not being recognized or respected by others, that is where you're deriving the source of meaning. And meaning is simply energy. Every meaning that you have has an energy signal, an energy signature that determines how it propels you towards what you want to get. And people, when you're communicating that meaning to people, when you're communicating your work to people, people pick up the signals, the energy signals and the energy signature of your source of meaning, even without you knowing them and even without them being conscious of it. So you want to be careful on structuring the story you tell yourself, because the story you tell yourself determines how you're going to portray yourself to the world, how you're going to present yourself to the world, and how you're going to interpret the experiences that you're getting, which will create the memory that will reinforce other experiences that you're going to have and other outcomes that you're going to have. So it's not just about the experience itself that people are having that will determine their outcome. It is the internal energy that is interpreting and processing that experience that will determine the outcome. So because you had the same experience with someone doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the same outcome. The experience is processed by your intelligence, and it intertwines with the internal energy that you have, which is derived from your source of meaning, and it uses that to create the results in your life. So how do you solve this? The first and the foremost thing is to understand the sources of yourself, the sources that come together to create your sense of self. I keep hammering on the importance of understanding the self, because when you understand the sources that come together to create yourself, you understand the memories, the ancestral memories, the psychological memories, the multi-dimensional memories, the social factors, and all of the things that come together to create the experience that you're having as a human being. and the things that are influencing your life at a subconscious level that you are unaware of. And when you understand these factors, how they come together to create the experience that you're having, to how to come together to shape the experience that you're having, it empowers you to now say, okay, this is what I'm gonna go for, and this is what I'm not gonna go for. Growing up as a child, the things that we are most missing in your life, as an adult, those things will become the most valuable thing, and it doesn't matter what it is. It could be the love that you sought from your father that was restrained from you. It could be the lack of access to resources like money. It could be the lack of love that you witnessed from your siblings. Those things will become the main source of meaning for you and the main driving force of your life as you grow up. So now, you want to understand the sources. You want to understand how these things are influencing your life. Whilst you don't have influence as to determine what was going to be available at your childhood or not, you can determine how those experiences that have created your sense of self will impact your life going forward. And you can actually use them as empowering tools in order to achieve and navigate your world. So that is why an introspective understanding, an introspective reflection and study of the self is very important and very key for any person that is going to live an authentic life. You must go back within yourself and ask yourself those basic questions. Who am I? Where am I coming from? Where am I going? How did I get here? What are my needs? What are the most important things of my life? What are the things that are the driving forces of my life? Why am I even attached to this person? Why am I going for this person? Why am I going for this purpose? Why am I going for this event? Why do I seek the things that I seek? Why do I find pleasure in the things that I find interesting, that I'm interested in? When you ask yourself these pertinent questions, these things don't happen in a day or two. They have to become the ritual of your life that will allow you to uncover those hidden elements of your life. When you start uncovering those things, you're gonna start living more consciously. Because the reason you want to live more consciously is because it's only in the space of consciousness, it's only in the realm of consciousness, of conscious experience, that you can take charge of your life, that you can utilize the most powerful and creative force that you have, and that is your ability to choose. And that cannot come without awareness. And this is what many people pursue and don't get. This is what is eluding a lot of people. People are going about their life like a ship without a rudder, because they have not uncovered the underlying forces that are directing their life without their conscious input. The underlying forces that are directing their life. So they are just making decisions without making choices. But you want to learn how to not just go from making decisions to making choices. Decisions can be influenced by a lot of factors. A lot of factors influence the decisions you make in, day out. But the choices that you make are decisions that are influenced by knowledge. Decisions that are influenced by the awareness of who you are and the factors that are involved in the choice that you want to make, in the decision that you want to make. And it's an empowering decision. Choice is an empowering decision, and it is creative. It can set off patterns and end patterns in a more creative way, in a more positive way, in a more impactful way, to create the kind of results that you want. Any human being that has not developed self-consciousness lacks the power to choose, lacks the creative force of choice. The person is incapacitated and is not able to utilize the force of choice within him, the creative force of choice. So whilst choice is something that is given to human beings, not all human beings exercise choice. All humans make decisions, but not all human beings make choices. The moment you start making choices for your life, you go from being every other human being, you go from being a mediocre to a top 1%. And the people who rule our society are people who make choices. They are people who set off patterns and end patterns. They are the history makers, they are the iconic figures. And it only comes when you have done the first work that the sages and the wise people of the past have called upon us to do, that you know thyself.